All right, welcome to episode 14 of the Hypothetically Speaking podcast, where we put the hype in every hypothetical scenario. I am joined by my friend Mike to finally talk basketball. Mike, I'm so excited to be able to talk NBA with you. But first, how are you?
Dude, I am chilling. I'm feeling pretty good. Feeling pretty good. Excited to be here. Excited to make my podcast debut.
Dude, we are
So
pumped. We are pumped because finally gets to talk basketball. Enough of the baseball talk. I've had enough. I've had enough, Mike. But in the recent news, we'll talk about some recent news first before we get into probably making some predictions on how the 2022-2023 NBA season is going to go. And of course, if we're talking news, we can't not talk about the Nets. It is just an absolute mess right now, considering where we thought they were just over the past few seasons. It's just been horrific the past year. So obviously led by Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, trade rumors, new ones every single day. KD said to the owner, I believe it's Joe Tsai or Tsai, one of those, how you pronounce it, but said basically you can trade me or you can fire Steve Nash and Sean Marks and I'll stay. Mike, how bold of KD, like, does he have to be to say that to the owner of the team?
bro, he has to be a big boss. Or he has to be a top three player in the league to say that, which he is a top three player. So I definitely respect the cojones, I guess you could say, of KD for stating that. Um, but the crazy thing is, like, the owner didn't like deny that it happened. He literally came out and tweeted, I forget, something along the lines of like, we believe in our GM and coach, and we're gonna do what's best for our organization going forward. So I don't know what that means.
Yeah, that was kind of wild. I don't know. He does own the team, so I don't blame him for just wanting to show that, like, hey, like, I know Kevin Durant is a top three, top five player in the NBA, but I still like it's my money on the team. Like, I'm gonna do what's best for the team, and I like my coach and my GM. So we'll see that, like, if like what he ends up deciding. But uh, kind of the awkward thing will be if Kevin Durant isn't traded, Steve Nash isn't fired, Sean Marks isn't fired, and training camp rolls around, and Steve Nash has to lead practice with rumors out that KD just said, like, no, like, I think this guy sucks. I don't want him to coach me. So I mean, just training camp seems like it will be a mess. But before we talk about Kyrie, there's some teams that have been reported to have interest in KD. I don't think he would say no to any of these. Boston, obviously, they're trying to hold on to Jaylen Brown. But actually, did you see, Mike, that there was a report that came out that the Nets asked for Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum?
Dude, I saw that today. That was if I was the Nets GM, I would just hang up the phone. Straight
That's
up.
I mean, but it's right in line with them asking the Timberwolves for Cat, Anthony Edwards, and 4 firsts. Like, that's just mind-boggling that they would ask them to trade two guys who were drafted first overall and 4 firsts for KD. Like, that's just mind-blowing. I don't actually blame KD for saying that Sean Marks has to go if that's what he's going around doing, making those kind of calls. I don't blame him at all.
Yeah.
But Boston, Phoenix trying to hold on to Booker. I don't think they'd part with him, but maybe Ayton. But actually, I don't think he can be traded till like January now. So it would probably have
Yeah.
to be something like Cam Johnson and picks, because I don't even know if they want to give up Bridges. Philly, who could probably do, I think we were texting about this earlier, maybe like a Maxi, Tobias Harris, and a bunch of picks. And then apparently New Orleans is also trying to do something around Brandon Ingram. Mike, which of those teams do you think should, like, or that I guess that the Nets should trade with to get a package back? Like, who do you think has the best package to offer?
That's tough because I think the Pelicans, obviously Brandon Ingram is a budding superstar in this league. He showed great promise in the playoffs. He is low key a young KD the way he plays. So that would be very attractive if I was in the Nets front office. I don't know what other pieces. I mean, I don't think Pelicans are going to try to get rid of CJ McCollum or Zion. So
Mm-mm.
it'd probably be Brandon Ingram. Um, I forget the dude who is like the sniper guy. Maybe they throw him in there. The guy who just goes around and like steals the ball,
Oh,
like when no
Jose
one's looking.
Alvarado, Grand Theft
Jose
Alvarado.
Alvarado, Grand
There we
Theft
go.
Alvarado. Yeah, it'll probably like BI, Grand Theft Alvarado. Maybe Valanciunas. I mean, Valanciunas, that would actually be decent. If I got like BI and Valanciunas, if I was the Sean Marks, I would
Mhm.
definitely listen to that for sure. Because that's, I mean, Brandon Ingram looks like he might be the next guy.
Yeah.
So that would probably be it for me. Like Philadelphia, they can give you Maxey, Harris, Tybal, some picks, but they can't even give you PJ Tucker because they just signed him. I mean, Harden obviously not, Embiid obviously not. So I would definitely pursue a trade with the Pelicans and or just keep KD. But at the way this is going, it's just going to be very very ugly. So we'll see.
Yeah. I love Brandon Ingram. I guess it would also depend on what else the Pelicans could throw in. I don't know if they'd want to do Valanciunas just because if they're going to send out BI, they're going to want to compete for a championship when they bring in KD. And if they give up both, it's probably going to be difficult. But the Nets have also been clear since they've traded away all of their picks that they are going to want to compete with whoever they bring in. And Brandon Ingram's definitely, unless they're able to get Booker, probably the best player that would be available. But Booker just seems so untouchable. And I would probably take Brandon Ingram over Jaylen Brown from Boston, but I'm also a huge Tyrese Maxey fan. I love Tyrese Maxey and would love to see him kind of like have his own team. Not necessarily like I would build my franchise around Tyrese Maxey, but like kind of be the primary ball handler for a team because he got like half a season to do it between Ben Simmons sitting out before they traded for Harden. So I want to see Maxey just get that role. And obviously, I think if they trade KD, they need to go ahead and trade Kyrie as well. There was a report that came out that said that Kyrie Irving hates Steve Nash and Sean Marks too, but his agent, who's actually his stepmother, said that he doesn't actually hate those guys and that that's not his brand at all to hate. Like he's all about love, and I think that makes 100% sense. But is there a team other than the Lakers that had like that you could see trading for Kyrie?
Absolutely not. I just can't see any team besides the Lakers that would even want Kyrie. Obviously, Kyrie is very talented, but it's just like it's just been one thing after the next. Like obviously, you had the vaccine situation. Then the year before, he missed time due to personal reasons. So he hasn't been as reliable on the court. But obviously, when he's on the court, even if he misses out the season, he could score 60 and three quarters. So it depends. But also the key thing is he's in his last year of his contract. So if you're a team, are you going to take a risk for someone who might just leave?
Right.
So I don't know, except if you're the Lakers. But I don't really see any other team that would want to trade for Kyrie, to be honest. But
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't know.
trying to look at it and I'm just thinking the I could think of two teams, maybe three all out west that maybe I could maybe see it working. Um I think it's yeah, three. If the Pelicans don't get KD, maybe they want to do some sort of like CJ McCollum trade for Kyrie. I think CJ McCollum's like a fantastic player, but I think Kyrie's better. So I mean, if Kyrie is gonna be committed, just getting a slight upgrade because CJ McCollum by himself is better than anything the Lakers basically have to offer. So you're getting in CJ McCollum or and like maybe like a pick or like another role player, something like that. If Minnesota wants to try and upgrade from D'Angelo Russell, I think that contract could also work. And having Kyrie along with Anthony Edwards and Cat and Rudy Gobert, now that's a squad. That's a team. And then the other team, I think that this could be fun is Dallas. If Dallas wants to, they just lost out on Jalen Brunson. I think they have a couple kind of bad contracts there that they could pull together along with picks. I don't know exactly if that's the best trade offer available, But if they wanted to throw like 2 firsts, that's already better than the Lakers can offer. And having Kyrie play off ball next to Luka, I think that could be interesting because Kyrie's proven he can play off ball, but Luka needs the ball in his hands. So could be interesting fits. What do you think?
I agree. I was actually thinking about Dallas too because I think him, especially like they just lost Jalen Brunson. If you literally just bring in Kyrie, and Dallas got it all the way to the conference finals last year. Obviously, you didn't have the Lakers, which I don't know if the Lakers gonna be, that
Who
level
knows?
anyway. Clippers, I think, will be better. But I think if you added Kyrie and they got Christian Wood, and you toss I don't know, like Tim Hardaway Jr.'s contract or some of
Yeah.
the other contracts, I think that could actually be. I could see Mark Cuban like going for it. Mark Cuban, I think he like openly said something about Kyrie earlier with the vaccine thing, saying like Dallas doesn't have a vaccine mandate, like earlier in the year.
Uh-huh.
But he's like, you can come here or something like that. So I think Mark Cuban would be the one to roll the dice to be like, hey, you can come here.
Yeah.
So I could see Mark Cuban doing that. The T Wolves, that would be pretty dirty. I know they've been thinking about getting rid of D'Angelo Russell because he looked terrible versus the Grizzlies. That would be nasty. And Cat and Gobert and Kyrie. That would be crazy to watch.
Yeah.
That'd be nasty.
I was just looking at teams. I was like, I think D'Angelo Russell gets paid enough that those contracts would work. And again, I think the Nets would take any one of those guys just over Russell Westbrook just by himself. Because it's like definitely would take CJ McCollum and D'Lo, especially like fan favorite D'Angelo Russell. Like they love him in Brooklyn. They basically chased him out of town by bringing in Kyrie. Go full circle. I think that would be kind of cool. Even if Dallas sent out Spencer Dinwiddie, I know they probably don't want to give up Dinwiddie, but I think the Nets would be thrilled. The fans would be thrilled to bring back Dinwiddie from that team that made the playoffs the year before Katie and Kyrie joined. That I don't remember exactly what seed they were, but they kind of showed well in the playoffs with D'Lo, Spencer Dinwiddie. So yeah, it could be interesting to see. I don't know. It doesn't seem like anybody has any interest in him though. So it'll probably be the Lakers if it happens, but it's just been taking so long and going so slow. It's just like, can we just see something happen? But just hasn't happened yet.
I know.
But with the other New York team, the Knicks are pretty much the favorites for Donovan Mitchell. And with Utah trading Rudy Gobert, I think it doesn't seem like they're in a rush to trade Donovan Mitchell, but if the right offer is presented, then they will definitely trade Mitchell. And it could just be that they're trying to, hold some leverage and make it seem like that they're not desperate to move him. But Mike, how many firsts would you give up if you're the Knicks? I don't know exactly how many firsts they have over the next few years, but they have some extra picks. How many firsts would you give up to bring Donovan Mitchell to join this New York team, assuming you're only giving up, a couple prospects and you're not really giving up a guy like RJ Barrett or anybody that's really going to affect the team directly next season?
I would give up probably 4 with like prospects. I mean, because considering it's the Knicks, it's like you haven't had anyone really since Melo.
Yeah.
And Donovan Mitchell, I think, has made it like he's from New York. He's like a huge Mets fan.
Yeah.
I don't think he would be opposed to playing in New York at all. And they traded Gobert away. So if I'm the Knicks, I am definitely trying to go get him. I wouldn't give up more because it would definitely make up for this bad draft that they had. I don't know what they just traded back to get multiple picks, which is nice, but it's only nice if you get a guy like Donovan Mitchell. So I think they should definitely use those picks combined with, I don't know. Maybe Randall, maybe Top. I don't know, but they all just play together in the like a summer like pro-am game, like Jalen Brunson, Obi Toppin, Julius Randle. So maybe they're building some chemistry. Maybe RJ Barrett is the odd man out. I don't know. I would rather have Barrett than Randall though. That's just my opinion. But I think they definitely should throw in like a couple, like 3 or 4 first, one of those guys, and maybe attach another guy as well. So I can see that happening for sure, for
Yeah,
sure. I think he honestly ends up in New York at some
right. Let me make sure I'm reading this right
point.
because it almost looks, if I'm reading a website that says that they have 4 firsts next season, but I think there might be certain protections on them. Let me just, yeah, okay. Like they have like the Pistons first, but it's protected 1 through 18. So like they won't have the Pistons first, but they have 4 firsts next season. Some of which are protected. We'll roll back. May not even come to be anything, but they can definitely package. I mean, 4 firsts next year, 1 in 2024 and 2 in 2025. With as good as next year's class is, Utah would love to go into it with, maybe I think they have the Nets first next year from that just random Royce O'Neal trade, like right before the news broke out that KD wanted a trade. They traded their first for Royce O'Neal, which just blew my mind that they still had it. But excuse me. The Jazz could walk into that draft with some protected, but like 7 firsts into the class with Victor Wembanyama, Scoot Henderson, the Thompson twins. Like that this class is going to be so deep, Mike. Like I'm pumped for our fantasy league to be able to. I told you this before. I'm trying to get picks, if I
Yes.
can get them, and just to be able to hopefully get my hands on a couple of those guys in fantasy. But you said 4 firsts. I think I read that the Jazz were asking for like 5 or 6, but maybe something along the lines with like 5 firsts. No, I think that the Knicks said they want to keep Quentin Grimes. So maybe like Obi Toppin and Cam Reddish. I don't see why they don't put Julius Randle in there as well. But I mean, the Jazz seem to be building like OKC. What do you think about what the Jazz have going for them so far?
I think like I think they definitely have done. I mean, I think with the Gobert trade, getting 5 first was really nice. I didn't honestly didn't think he was worth 5 first, or was it? Wait, was it 5 or like
It
6?
was like 4 and a pick swap. So
Oh yeah, 4 and a pick swap.
plus a
But
couple other like starters, which just blew my mind. But
yeah, that did blow my mind. Even though I heard Gilbert Arenas said like he said those guys were like not that great. But I was like, I mean, those guys are like starters on a playoff team, so
right.
they're definitely rotational guys. So I think, I mean, if I'm the Jazz, like especially like Quinn Snyder just stepped down, which is interesting. He stepped down before the Gobert trade, so he stepped down. The trade happened. It was just very clear, even in the playoffs. It's like, all right, like they've tried this team for the last like 3 or 4 years, hasn't really gone anywhere. They haven't gone past the either first or second round. So I think it's just time to blow it up. I mean, they already did with Gobert. I think they definitely should trade Donovan Mitchell, or it's just going to be Donovan Mitchell, Pat Bev, and some guys, and Bogdanovich, and some dudes. I couldn't tell you anyone else on the squad. So
Yeah.
I without like if they don't trade Donovan Mitchell, I mean they're probably like a play-in team, maybe because Donovan is gonna be good. But I just feel like they should just trade him because like why not? Especially his stock is only gonna be as high as it is like right now. I think so.
Yeah. I think if they don't trade him and he like just plays most of the season. I mean, they got Jared Vanderbilt, who I know Minnesota's defense wasn't good last year, but he was probably their best defender between him and Pat Bev. So, I mean, he was their best defender down low for sure. But Utah will definitely slide down the standings. And I think we'll get into some teams later about it, but and the Spurs will as well. Whereas the Lakers, Kings, and Blazers were all outside the play-in last season and should all, in theory, be better because the Kings made moves to get better. The Blazers made moves to get better, and the Lakers are just should be healthy. So I'm not saying the Lakers are going to be back to home court in the playoffs, but they'll be healthy. So I would think a team of LeBron and Anthony Davis should be a little bit better. But I'm excited to see. what Utah is able to do just with the amount of draft capital they've already acquired and can still acquire. And it's going to be quite the tank race next season towards the end. I mean, we already saw even this year, just like Portland, Indiana, and OKC just flat out not playing players, just saying they were injured or like, I mean, it was getting ridiculous by the end of the season, just the guys that were suiting up for them. But I think Utah is doing it the way that they should as a small market team. Like they're not like the Lakers, they're not like the Heat, they're not like the Knicks. I mean, not that the Knicks get free agents anymore or really ever, but they're not a big market team that's going to be able to attract guys to want to go play there. So they just drafted well, got Donovan Mitchell, I believe, pick 13, got Rudy Gobert late, and took those guys, built around them, were a 1 seed at one point, just never could get past the second round. So they traded them for a ton of draft capital. Well, they haven't traded Donovan Mitchell yet, but just presuming they do. And now they have all these picks to try and like start over basically. And OKC did that with trading away Westbrook and trading away Paul George. So it'll be good to see. But the NBA is in a very slow period of time right now, so there's not much news. It's just these rumors flying all the time. So we're going to go ahead and make some very early predictions for next season. Probably won't get through all the awards just because it's kind of hard to predict who's going to win Sixth Man of the Year at this point, when we're not even sure who's necessarily going to be starting for every team and those kinds of things. Like, especially like Most Improved, it just kind of happens. Like, it's kind of hard to predict preseason, but we will talk about Rookie of the Year. Mike, we'll talk about a few different candidates, but first I want to hear who you think is going to win Rookie of the Year.
I think just based on what I've seen in Summer League, also, people are like, Summer League is not a big deal. I don't think it is, but it is definitely telling of like what you might see in the year, kind of like NFL training camp. It's like telling what you might see. So I was very impressed with Banchero, man. Paolo, he looked really good. And like the crazy thing was like he kind of showed why he should have been a number one pick, which he was number one pick, but it wasn't until like an hour before that everyone knew he was going to be taking number one. So you could definitely see what the Magic were thinking with him. I mean, even at Duke, he was just very like, I mean, he has an NBA body like right now. Like his size is crazy. He can pass. He could shooting. His shooting I think he's gotten better since Duke. He's a pretty decent defender. Get some good rebounds. So he's like kind of like this game like is a perfect player for this day and age. Like he's not just a scorer or just a pat. Like he can do a little bit of everything. So I think with that Magic offense, considering they have my guy Cole Anthony, and they got Markel Fultz, Jalen Suggs, but they really have no one down low. Well, no, that's no one. They got Mo Bamba, Wendell Carter. I really believe they're going to run their offense through Banchero because he has like a unique skill set. So for that reason, I would say he'd be my favorite for Rookie of the Year next year.
Yeah, I think obviously there's a top three in this draft class going into the draft. And I was kind of, over the month or two before, I was kind of like unsure which one I would take where. It's like, I thought Jabari Smith was the best player coming out of college. Like he was the one that I really liked, but I thought, Chet has an opportunity to be a unicorn, which is obviously a term that's just thrown around about a lot of different guys, but just an absolute menace on both offense and defense. So, and he's like 7'1", 7'2", can shoot, can handle, can block shots, like unicorn. And then, but I was like, if you looked, the Celtics made the finals this year built around Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Andrew Wiggins was a key piece for the Warriors. Like Steph is just in a league of his own, but it's a wings league at this point. And I think, if you're trying to really build a winner, getting guys that can kind of play on the wing that are taller is huge. So, and you talked about Orlando's roster. He's going to fit in. They'll have Wendell starting, probably Mo Bamba backing him up, and Kara at the 4, probably Franz Wagner at the 3. and then a plethora of guys that can play guard between Suggs, Anthony, and who am I missing? Oh, Markelle Fultz. So they have a deep team. It just seemed like they were a superstar, like a true franchise player. They have a bunch of young prospects. So the Magic, I mean, we can see them improve this season. I don't know if it's enough to make the playoffs, but but I like the Banchero pick is my whole point with all of that. Despite us now having beef, because as a Hawks fan supporting DeJounte Murray, we're now anti Paulo Banchero in this household. But I mean, I just love the fact that they're in the same division as the Hawks, and now we can see that matchup a few different times. But we'll see if it actually ends up spilling onto a professional court, or if it's just one of DeJounte's pro-am antics that have kind of been going on over the past week or so. But I'm going to take Keegan Murray for Rookie of the Year. He won Summer League MVP. I was looking this up. The last Summer League MVP to win Rookie of the Year was John Wall. So it's been a really long time, which is kind of crazy to think. It used to happen like often. Like it was Blake Griffin, then it was John Wall. I don't remember before that. I remember looking it up, but since then it hasn't happened. But we looked at last season with a 3-man race late with Scotty Barnes, Evan Mobley, and Cade Cunningham. Cade got off to a slow start that kind of hurt him. Plus the Pistons just didn't win games. But I think had the Cavs kind of stayed ahead of the Raptors in the standings, then there's a chance that Mobley would have won. But since the Cavs ended up missing the playoffs and the Raptors possibly could have, I mean, I think they ended up losing to the Sixers 4-2 after being down 3-0, came back, made it 3-2. But Scotty Barnes got hurt. So they had a chance to win that first round matchup. But I think winning is going to be like kind of important. And among the top 6 guys that got picked, who I think are the only ones that really have a chance, the Kings should be the best team. That they have Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox to build around. They added in Kevin Huerter, who's a guy who's made the playoffs. They're gonna be a pretty solid team. So I don't know if it'll be enough to make the playoffs in the West, but I like Keegan Murray. He's going to be able to score the ball from day one. Coming out as a sophomore, he just had extra time to get adjusted. I think the top 2 were freshmen, and then it was 3 sophomores. Actually, Mathurin might be a sophomore as well. A lot of sophomores, usually a lot of freshmen. But we can talk about Chet. Mike, what do you think about Chet? I don't remember if you're anti-Chet or not. I know we have friends that are anti-Chet, but
yes, we do have friends who are anti-Chet, but I like Chet a lot. I like his game because, like, even though he's like literally a twig down there, like if you look at him how he defends, he is so long. It doesn't matter how much he gets bullied in the paint. As long as he jumps up, he's gonna block a shot. And I think that's the thing that like makes him so unique. And on the offensive end, like he got handles, like he can step back and shoot. Like he's not the quickest guy ever, but even if he's like going against a stronger guy in the post or whatever, all he needs to do is just get that fadeaway going, and he nails that pretty well too. So I think he's extremely skilled. I don't really know what his ceiling is because I don't think we've seen someone really like him. I guess kind of a Kristaps if we had to compare, but I don't think I've really seen anyone like Chet, to be honest.
right.
So I think he could be really, really good. He definitely has I think out of all the guys who got drafted, he definitely has the highest ceiling, 100%. So I think he could be a like Hall of Fame type potential, like just his skill set alone. But it just kind of depends because his situation I think is actually really good in OKC because you got like Shea who's gonna set him up at times. You got Josh Giddey, he's gonna set him up. Those guys know how to play the game of basketball. They got some young guys. They got a couple veterans. So, I mean, not saying they'll make the playoffs or anything next year, but I think they're definitely building something pretty good. So I think he has the opportunity to be really, really good. I like his potential a lot.
Yeah, no, I'm a huge fan. I wasn't always, but I love that he landed in OKC because what OKC is going to do, excuse me, is probably play him about 40 games, probably about 25, 28 minutes a game. Just show the potential. And I think this hurts his rookie of the year case, but show his potential. Rest him some, probably any little ailing that he has listed down as an injury. Have him, just miss games basically, just to be able to help their lottery odds. I think that OKC's tanking is not over. They're going to be definitely right in the mix for Victor Wembanyama, which means we're not going to see a lot of SGA, Giddey, or Chet Holmgren this season. And who knows? I would think after this season that they would be trying to win games, especially if they add another stud in the lottery. But it's probably going to be 2 to 3 seasons before Chet is able to really, I think he'll be very talented immediately. But like you mentioned, he's skinny. I think a lot of people have just said, oh, what's he going to do when Giannis is driving down the lane? Well, nobody does anything when Giannis is driving down the lane. Nobody can guard him. He doesn't get called for charges. So Chet's just going to be like everybody else, except he's going to be able to defend a lot of other people. Like Joel Embiid, nobody can guard Joel Embiid. That's so you don't need Chet Holmgren to be the Embiid stopper as a rookie. He's a long-term project to truly reach his potential, but I think 3-4 years down the road, especially if he pans out, we're going to be looking back the Magic missed out. Even if Banchero is excellent, Chet has a chance to be that good. But I think that hurts his rookie of the year case. But among the other, I guess the third of those top 3 prospects, Jabari Smith landed in Houston. Mike, what do you think about him, I guess, as a rookie, but also fitting in with their young core?
Yeah. Jabari Smith, I would say out of the top 3 guys, he's someone who I haven't watched a ton just because I didn't watch a lot of Auburn games this year, but I do like his skill set. The only thing that does concern me was he wasn't even the best player on their summer league team. I know it's just summer league, but I forget Tari Eason or whatever.
Tari Eason is legit.
Tari Eason, he looked really good, and so I think Jabari has because I know he mentioned that he does different things, not just score. I think he's gonna definitely work on rebounding and different things. But I do like his skill set a lot. I mean, he's a really tall 3. He kind of maybe only because I'm thinking about Houston, but he kind of is a 6'8" guard, low key, a T-Mac type. Not saying he's like T-Mac at all, but but just the way he is. So I think he definitely could be really, really good. I think it's going to be interesting because they got a lot of young guys in Houston and a lot of guys who could be really good, but aren't really good yet.
Yeah,
KPJ's decent. Jalen Green has potential, but he's very inefficient. Jabari Smith did shoot a lot of shots in summer league, wasn't as efficient as you would probably like him to be. But I think they definitely could use some veterans. But they got some pretty good guys in there in Houston. So I think he'll be good. But it just kind of depends. I think he didn't really look that great in summer league, but I think he'll have a pretty decent rookie year for sure.
Yeah, I think my main knock against him for rookie of the year is that a lot of times rookie of the year is just who scores the most. And it wasn't necessarily that way directly last season, but a lot of times it comes down to the rookie that is able to just average the most points per game. And I don't think Jabari Smith is going to get enough shots with Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr. there, as well as some of the other young guys they have, to really be able to match probably the scoring of Keegan Murray or Paulo Banchero or even Benedict Mathurin for that matter. But I'm really, really excited to see how Houston's young core pans out. It reminds me of a few seasons ago when the Hawks had just drafted DeAndre Hunter and Cam Reddish. We had Trae Young heading into his second season, Kevin Huerter, young John Collins. It feels like we have our starting 5 of the future right now. And obviously it didn't pan out perfectly. But it's just a nice young core. I saw that the Rockets were interested in offering a new contract to KPJ, but it looked like I couldn't find it, but like it was less than I kind of thought it would be for the guy that was their starting point guard. But kind of interesting to see there. Maybe we believe in him more than the team does. But Jalen Green as like the main scoring guy, but also Tari Eason and Jabari Smith playing defense, Alperen Şengün as well. It's just in a very exciting young core in Houston. And I guess a good case for Jabari Smith is that Houston didn't ever tank the way that OKC did, or Indiana or Portland. Like they were playing their guys up until the last game. So they were just trying to get everybody as much run as possible. They're not just going to fake injuries or just bench Jabari Smith just to help their lottery odds. Like they're going to let the man play through and that's do it the right way. But I just don't see him necessarily scoring enough. And like you said, he didn't show great in summer league, probably not as well as people thought. But he's going to be an excellent defender. I loved, like in college, I thought a lot of his scoring was, I don't know. This was just me overhyping. Anybody who's tall that has a mid-range, I say is Kevin Durant. But I was like, man, that dude looks like Kevin Durant, because he was just like jab step, like from the elbow and just like shooting over people. And I was like, yeah, that's Kevin Durant. But I guess everybody's that's 6'10" with a mid-range in college looks like Kevin Durant in college. But I guess, okay, so we talked about Keegan Murray. Pick 5, Jaden Ivey to the Pistons, who Ivey was excellent in his 2 or maybe like 1, not even 1.5 summer league appearances before he hurt his ankle, but he looked excellent. Mike, what do you think about Jaden Ivey and what the Pistons have cooking in Detroit?
Yeah, I love from the get-go, I thought, even though Keegan Murray was like probably the most NBA ready, I guess, come out of college, I would say. Like I like Banchero's like body, but I think Keegan Murray was definitely the most NBA ready. I just felt like Jaden Ivey with Cade Cunningham, that would just be so great for his career. So I think they both ended up where they're supposed to end up. I think Ivey obviously gives everyone John Morant vibes from college. I mean, the way he attacks the open floor is just incredible. He looked pretty good in summer league before he was hurt or whatever. But I think with him and Cade, I mean, he doesn't have a lot of pressure to do everything, which obviously is like where like I don't think anyone should take Ivy for Rookie of the Year at all, just because they got so many guys. But I think what they did, and getting Durant too, Durant was like really nice in college out of Memphis, and he looks really good. I think with him, Sadiq Bey, who's like in Colorado training hard and hiking because they like told him that he needs to stay out the gym. Like you have someone who's like trying to stay out they have to tell you to stay out the gym. It's crazy already. Even though they suck, he is in the gym. So I think they got a bright future. I mean, I think they low-key could contend for a play-in spot this year, but I think we'll see kind of like OKC did with like Harden, Durant, and Russ. Not saying like those guys are Harden, Durant, and Russ, but I could see them in like next 2 to 3 years. I think JJ Redick said they'd be like a problem in 3 years. I think they'll be like a really good team in like maybe 2 to 3 and be consistently. So I think they're gonna build, and they'll probably have like a late first next year. But I think they'll definitely get better, have some veteran pieces. I think they'll be pretty good. They got some good players. I like all their players a lot.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I think Ivy is gonna be very good. I think that, I mean, he'll still show well as a rookie, but I think it's more of, like you said, 2 to 3 years for the team as a whole. I don't think he'll do enough to win Rookie of the Year, but I still think, I mean, he should start at shooting guard right off the bat. So, but that duo of Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey, like that's just such an exciting core. Obviously, all the other young guys that you mentioned around them, but seeing those two in a backcourt is thinking 2-3 years down the road, seeing them in the playoffs, that's scary. I think Cade Cunningham, I said this before that draft. I think Cade Cunningham is arguably the best prospect, like most complete best prospect since maybe even LeBron. And I know a lot of people every single year, oh, this is the best prospect since LeBron. But I actually genuinely felt that about Cunningham, like clear number one to me, just does everything well, very mature for his age, but still young and like very young. So you can build around him for like a while. I think Cunningham's going to be able to take the Pistons to the promised land. I mean, like, I know the Pistons won in 03, I believe, 03-04 season, with the second version of the Bad Boys, basically with Chauncey Billups, Rip Hamilton, Tayshaun Prince. But that wasn't like, there was nobody on that team that was like, oh no, like they're like a top 5 player in the NBA. So I think, and I had this thought one time, and I look back and like only a couple of guys ever made an all NBA team from that squad. But Cade Cunningham, I think, has a chance to eventually be like the best player in the league, or like a top 5 player in the league. I think he's that good. So I know this was supposed to be about Jaden Ivey, but I ended up I love Cade Cunningham. So I'm excited about Detroit and Jaden Ivey. You mentioned the John Morant comparison. It's almost eerie watching those like side-by-side videos of them. But he's such an explosive athlete and such a fun player. It was a good pick by Detroit. I thought because the Kings picked at 4, but they were looking to trade it. If they traded it, didn't matter to what team, whoever they traded him to was going to take Jaden Ivey at 4. Keegan Murray would have went 5, but it worked out really nicely for the Pistons because the Kings just traded away Tyrese Halliburton. I was going to be mad if they traded away Halliburton just to draft Ivy. That would have made me mad because I think Halliburton's good. But speaking of Halliburton and the Pacers, the other player that I think has a chance to win Rookie of the Year is Benedict Mathurin, out of Arizona, 6th pick to Indiana. Indiana's going to tank again. And this will probably be, I mean, I think it was kind of mid-season they decided to tank. But I think that from the get-go, they'll be like, hey, like this Victor Wembanyama guy, he can change our franchise. But they still have Tyrese Halliburton. They have Miles Turner for now, but he'll probably get traded. They have Chris Duarte. They have Buddy Hield. Wouldn't be shocked if he got traded. So they have a couple other young guys, but Benedict Mathurin, because Rookie of the Year is the guy who generally scores the most, I think he has a chance to do it. Mike, what do you think about him saying that he's not sure LeBron's better than him? He'll have to play him first before he knows for sure, because nobody's better than him.
Bro, that was wild. I forgot it was him who said that. That was funny. I like his confidence though. I think he's definitely going to be good. Saw a little bit of him in the summer league. He definitely showed out in a couple games he played. I think I definitely agree. I'm sure he'll definitely score a good bit, but it's definitely tough because, well, honestly, they don't really have a lot of guys on the team who will score unless Buddy Hield or whoever this team is going to be in the beginning of the season.
Right.
We just don't know because Buddy Hield, he is not shy about shooting shots
at
all. So, and Tyrese is more a facilitator. I mean, I think it's a point guard of the future for them for sure. I mean, he's really good. So I think Mathurin, he has a chance to get a lot of buckets depending on who's on the squad next year. For the Pacers, I mean, I don't really know. I mean, I guess trading Sabonis was good to get Tyrese for sure. They're definitely team tank though for sure. They just don't really have anyone. They definitely should trade Miles Turner, get some capital. Maybe they can get like a second round, or maybe they get like a future first one. Who knows? I don't know. But yeah, I think they definitely go full tank, get rid of Turner and Hield, and just let Mathurin and Tyrese just go off, and Duarte. So I think that's what they should do. And if that's the case, Mathurin is going to be really good and get a lot of touches.
Yeah, I was on a podcast a few weeks ago, and I said that he's not going to be Bradley Beal, but he could one day be kind of sort of like Bradley Beal or like a Zach LaVine, maybe not an exact play style, but in the sense that he scores a lot of points and doesn't add a ton of other numbers anywhere. but it's a very good player. But if the Pacers are able to do, I don't remember, I think it was like a 3 or 4 team trade where basically for how it affected Indiana was they got rid of Buddy Hield and they got rid of Miles Turner to the Lakers for like Russell Westbrook and a pick or two, and then bought out Westbrook. I would like to see that happen because I think it's the best deal for the Lakers and it's a very good deal for the Pacers because one, they're getting probably like a 2026 or 2027 first, which by that time, LeBron will be retired. Anthony Davis will be in his 30s. Miles Turner and Buddy Hield have moved on. There's a chance the Lakers are awful and they could just kind of get some first then, but it also helps them get rid of some contracts, get rid of some guys that are going to keep them from getting Victor Wembanyama. It's just the tanking mindset I have because that's how I play fantasy. But I think it's a really good move for the Pacers. Mike, is there anybody else that you could see having a chance at Rookie of the Year? I mean, hold on, let me read the odds real quick. The favorite, and this is what I'm looking at right now. It came out just a couple hours ago, but Banchero at plus 300, Chet at plus 375, Keegan Murray at plus 600, Jabari Smith at plus 650, Ivy at plus 700, Benedict Mathurin at plus 1,100, and the next closest is Shaden Sharp at plus 2,000. I don't see Sharp having much of a chance because he seems like the most like just raw prospect to me, or I guess the biggest unknown because we really don't know because he didn't play in college. But I think with Portland trying to contend a little bit more with Dame, they have Anthony Simons there. I just don't know if Shaden Sharp has a chance, but do you think that there's anybody else that maybe has a chance, or do you even think that Sharp has a chance?
Sharp in particular, man, he is a raw prospect. Like, honestly, the only thing I saw him in summer league, he played like I think half a quarter.
Yeah,
He literally all I always saw from him is do like a turnaround, like
it was a smooth
jump shot.
turnaround though.
It was pretty smooth. It was pretty smooth. So I'm like, I don't know, but like we just don't know anything about it. I mean, because there's so many guys who were raw, top 5, like in high school, who were just like okay in the NBA. So we just don't know about him. But if I had to see like a sleeper pick, the dude from the Spurs, he looks like he could be really good.
Jeremy Sokan.
Yeah, Jeremy Sogan. Yeah. Not the dude from Baylor, but the dude from Ohio State.
Oh, you're talking about Malachi Branham or
Malachi
Branham?
Branham. Yeah. Malachi.
Okay.
I think he definitely has a lot of skill set and a lot of good skill sets, and I think he could definitely, especially for the Spurs. I mean, they have nobody right now. Like, it's just they traded Dejounte. They literally let DeMar walk for nothing, and then traded DeJounte for 4 first. So they have no one right now, and those guys are gonna get a lot of touches. The guy from Baylor, he was more of like a slasher guy. Like, he could score, but I have to see more of him. I mean, at Baylor, he just didn't really do a whole lot of like scoring. I saw, but I mean, in the NBA, it's a different game, so maybe he could just go off. But I think that Malachi, he looks like he could be a really good guy. Not saying he was one Rookie of the Year, but maybe a sleeper pick for the Spurs, because the Spurs are really good at picking guys. So
Right.
yeah, I do like that a lot.
Okay.
But
Well,
also, I do have another not sleeper,
yeah.
but a guy just popped in my head. The Nikola Jovic. He looked pretty nasty in summer league. He has
Yeah.
no chance of getting Rookie of the Year because of the team he plays for, the Heat. And I don't even know if he'll get in the rotation like that,
Right.
but he looks really good.
Maybe in a
So
couple of years.
in a couple of years, he was just so easy. Like, he was putting on 25 like easily in the summer league. I was just like, sheesh.
Yeah.
So those two guys, I would say, guys to look out for.
Yeah. Well, we're going to move over to MVP picks because that's fun as well. And we're running short on time. So I want to make sure we at least do that. Mike, I went through and I see this as probably a 7-man race. I think that there's 7 guys that have a chance. But I want to hear. I also have a favorite, but I want to hear your favorite first.
Well, I will say if Jokic wins again, there's something rigged. There's no way he should win again. Not saying he's not he's always going to be a favorite, but like, I mean, unless Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal come back and be like crazy good, I just don't see him winning. But I do, based off last year's like playoffs, Luka looks like, even though the year before they're saying like Luka might win, I think Luka, if he has the kind of year that we all know he can, everyone's been saying he's been in, like he said he's in the best shape of his life, which is one of like 10 guys who keep saying that. But but like if he comes in a really good shape and they build off of what they did last year, obviously losing Jalen Brunson or hurt, but if they're like a top 3 seed, I could definitely see Luka winning the MVP. I think he might be my favorite. He would be more my favorite if Jalen Brunson was there still, but I think he definitely is my favorite right now. I can't really see anyone out of the East. I mean, Jason Tatum, I think will have a good year, but I mean, based off that finals, like him and Jaylen Brown are kind of like on the not the same level, but like Tatum's just like a tier ahead of Brown. So I don't see him like winning MVP. KD, maybe he's on his revenge track. He's saying F everybody and just goes off next year, which I could honestly see that happening. But the Nets would actually have to be really good, which I don't know how they're going to be really good with all this drama. But if they are, I think KD's definitely up there. Jimmy Butler might be a guy to look out for. He might build off of it, but he's not a regular season guy. Mm-hmm. So at the same time, I don't see that. I know people tossed out Braun. I think Braun will be good again. I mean, if Braun had the same stats he had last year and the team was like top 3, he would have won easily because he was putting up 30, which was crazy. Right. But I like Embiid a lot too. But I feel like Harden's gonna be a lot better, so I don't see him being as good. So I think that being said, I like Luka as my favorite.
Yeah, I think I have Luka as well. I think I picked Luka at the beginning of last season to win MVP, and then he just got off to a slow start. But you mentioned the conditioning thing. There's been a couple pictures floating around of him. There's one he looked ripped, and one he just looked slim. And I'll take either because that's just so scary considering, especially how he looked in the playoffs last season. I think he's gonna probably. I just think he's destined to win, but. I actually extended my list to 8. I'm going to name all 8, but I think Luka's my favorite. I think it's basically his award to lose at this point. So unless he comes out slow, he's probably going to win it. But Jokic is on the list, though. I think you're right. Like if he wins it a third time, unless the Nuggets are like a 1 seed or like a 2 seed, and he's as good as he was last year. I think that's the only way that he has a chance to win it again. He won't win it again at a 6 seed, like no doubt. Giannis, I think he's one of, if not the most dominant player in the league, has a chance to win it every year. It's kind of like how LeBron was basically the entire 2010s, where it's like, yeah, we could probably give it to this guy every single year, but we just don't. Steph has a chance. I'm a little bit more iffy on that pick, just because I don't see him playing every game. He'll definitely like just rest some games. I think he had a chance last year if he didn't get hurt. So we'll see. I like Ja. I think Ja has a chance, especially if the Grizzlies have as good of a season as they did last year. But I don't know. He kind of proved that, like, I mean, even with them as a 2 seed and him as good as he was, I guess the main knock against him was that he missed like 20 games and the Grizzlies like hardly lost without him. So he has a chance, but I think it might take the Grizzlies having a 1 seed and there not being another like candidate. I think Trey has a chance. That's probably a little bit of bias, but I think if the Hawks are able to finish as a top 1 or 2 seed in this Eastern Conference, that's going to be very impressive. And if Trey is putting up numbers like he did, I mean, as a sophomore, as his second season, where he averaged almost 30 and 10, I don't know if he's able to do that now that DeJounte's there. And I think I would hope they care more about winning. But if he's able to put up almost 30 and almost 10, and the Hawks are top seed or two, I think that's a possibility. Tatum, I think Jaylen Brown holds him back a little bit. Just like in the sense of that if they're good, it's probably not look to him as much unless he has like a huge jump at assists or something. And then I added Embiid, though I'm not certain that he really has a chance because he's finished second twice in a row. And 2 years ago, they were the 1 seed in the East. And he's finished second to Jokic. And then last year he finished second to Jokic. And they weren't a 1 seed, but he was the only, like, it was him and Jokic. I mean, I guess Giannis as well, but Embiid felt like one of the most dominant players in the NBA last season. So I think he said it. He's like, what more do I have to do to win MVP? And it's like, at this point, it's like, man, I don't know, because you've been so good and he just hasn't won it. So I think that's my list. I don't think LeBron or KD or even Kawhi have much of a chance at this point of their careers, just because I think they're either going to miss some games. The Lakers just aren't going to be good. There's a chance the Nets just aren't good if KD's even there. If KD gets traded, where does he go? I left Booker off the list because the Suns were the 1 seed last year and he was dominant and he wasn't ever really in the conversation. I don't know how much better he can get to be able to be in the MVP race. So I have Luka, but I'd be very shocked if it wasn't somebody from this list. And there's definitely some knocks against all of them. So no.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I like Luka a lot, though. I think Luka's going to probably win.
Oh my gosh, it's his award.
Yeah.
It's his time. But we're going to skip over some teams that are going to improve or regress. I think we'll probably talk about that on a different podcast, since we'll still get to talk more NBA before the season starts. But I do want to hear your very early NBA Finals pick. Very early, acknowledge.
This is very, very early. And it's like, the one thing that could change everyone's picks is like KD. Like, if so this is assuming he's still in New York. Still in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
If he's still in Brooklyn, I mean, I guess I'm going to start with the East. I feel like the East was definitely very competitive last year. I think we're talking about NBA Finals. Like, the Heat were close last year. Then they lost PJ Tucker. I just don't see that. I just don't see that happening. Even though I'm a Heat fan, I don't see it happening. So if I had to guess, the Celtics would definitely be in my conference finals. I like them getting Malcolm Brogdon a lot. I think even Draymond said, like, he wouldn't go far to say that they're the favorites, but he noticed that playing them last year in the finals, they were missing something. And Brogdon is like that, literally like that missing piece that could put them over the top. So with that being said, I think I think the Celtics might do it again. I mean, Philly, obviously getting PJ Tucker does help, but unless Harden gets dramatically better, I feel like he'll be better. I don't know if I could. I just don't know if I could see it. I think the Celtics just have a great team, front to back, and they got better, which is scary. So I think the Celtics are going to be my pick out of the East. The West is just so tough. I mean, obviously we see Golden State, but I will say, like, besides those finals with KD. And then obviously they came back with the 73 win team after they won it the first time. This team isn't like, it is set up to be good again next year, but I wouldn't go as far as saying like, oh, they're for sure going to win it again. Because now these guys are older. We don't really know how Clay is going to be next year. I think he'll be better, but I don't see him being a lot better. And they lost a lot of depth in the offseason. A lot of depth. I mean, Otto Porter Jr., who was big for them, they let go. Gary Payton Jr., Gary Payton II left. So Alicia. I mean, they got James Wiseman back, which that could be a very key factor. So I think, in my opinion, it's going to be between them and the Clippers. I like the Clippers a lot. Like, especially big if PG and Kawhi are back healthy. I mean, they almost made the playoffs. They were literally a game away from winning the playoffs without both of those guys. That is insane to me. And the Lakers had like two of their guys the whole season, and they missed the play-in. Like, these guys almost made the playoffs without two of like top 15 players in the league. So, and you add John Wall, which we don't know what version of him, but if he's just even a serviceable like 15-8, I mean, he adds a lot to that team. So if I'm choosing Clippers or Warriors, that's just really tough. I do like the Warriors, but I don't know. I think the Clippers, like roster-wise, have a better roster. So I'll probably give them a slight edge, even though I probably could be wrong. So I might go Clippers and Celtics. But man, that Clippers curse is real though. So that's tough.
Yeah. And who do you have winning?
I think the Celtics had the best offseason. Them getting Brogdon for absolutely nothing is insane considering they made the finals. And so they're 2 games away from winning. They got Brogdon for nothing. I think it's really the Celtics to lose. I mean, they're going to be hungry. The Warriors, even if the Warriors make it, I think they'll be ready to go, but the Celtics are just going to have way too much energy in the finals. So I think the Celtics are going to win it this year. I really think they got the team. Jaylen Brown's pissed off. He was in trade rumors. I think that everyone is going to come back ready to go. So I think I have the Celtics winning it next year.
Yeah. When I was looking at it, I was like, man, I don't want to pick Warriors Celtics because like they just played. I don't want to pick Warriors Celtics, but the Warriors also, I know you mentioned that they lost Gary Payton and Otto Porter, but they added Dante DiVincenzo, JaMychal Green. Like they reloaded and saved some money while doing it. So it just boggles my mind, like how Golden State's able to continue to make these moves, and then Boston's doing it out east. So I try not to pick either of them, though I think you make a really good point. Like they both have a very, very good chance, especially with Boston adding Brogdon for nothing, signing Danilo Gallinari, another guy with a lot of playoff experience that can add some offense because they're already like one of the best defensive, if not the best defensive team in the league. So we'll have to see. I mean, if they trade Jaylen Brown for Kevin Durant, that messes up everything. But I took the Bucks from the East. I think the Sixers are probably the only other team that has a chance. I guess, I mean, the Heat do too. Probably those 4. I mean, it's the top 4 teams. It's hard to change your mind from year to year. I guess we'll have to see as the season starts. But the Bucks probably would have beat Boston last year, made it back to the finals if Chris Middleton wasn't hurt. So add Middleton back into the mix. I think, Giannis is just a dominant player. I think that the Bucks are, and I have the Bucks getting back and beating the Clippers in the finals because I didn't want to pick the Warriors. And it's literally been the question every single year. If the Clippers are healthy, they can do this, but they have yet to be healthy. They are consistently injured. But 2 years ago, they almost beat the Suns and would have played the Bucks in the finals had Kawhi not got injured. Like they almost won that series even without him. So I think that if the Clippers stay healthy, or at least their duo stays healthy, that they can finally do this thing. But you mentioned the Clippers curse. It will ultimately prevail, and the Bucks will beat the Clippers in the NBA Finals. So we'll see what happens, but looks like we are Eastern Conference fans and anti-Clippers fans, at least very early. I don't know. I used to not like the Clippers, and now like just went with their duo of Paul George and Kawhi. Didn't really want to see like a favorite like them win, but kind of feel like they're almost underrated now. So we'll see what happens. But we'll definitely have plenty more to talk about next time. But that's going to do it for episode 14 of the Hypothetically Speaking podcast. It was great to talk NBA, but thank you all for listening. And Mike, thank you for joining me.
Yes, anytime. Glad I was able to come out the shadows for the Thicc Boy podcast.
I love it. All right. See ya.